Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Welcome back to another episode of Wisco Fanatics. Today is March 6th, 2024. It's a great day, great weather outside. Today is National Oreo Day, so you know Giannis is going to be dunking on the court, off the court. Also, I wanted to add in there that we are 1 week away from the NFL new league year. So lots of Packer news that's going to be coming out within the next week. Releasing players, extending some players. Jordan Love. We're within the next week, we're going to be talking to some safeties. On Friday, actually, Tyler and myself are going to be joined by Simon and Bryant. We have our free agency episode. We're going to allow people to do 2 trades max because we don't want to be going crazy. Also, we want to be
logical. Show doing trades if we let him just run around.
Dude, the thing with Bryant is he's like your kid, right? You have to reel him in and tell him the expectations, right? Otherwise, this kid will just be, give him an inch, he takes a mile, right? That's how Bryant is with these kind of things. So, we're going to be doing free agency and some trades, so that'll be a lot of fun. The next 2 months are going to be jam-packed, so be sure to tune in on Fridays at 8 p.m. The week after next is our Brewers Primer. I want to start pumping that up. We've been doing a lot of work with that. That's going to be a really, really great episode. Tell your friends, tell everybody that you know that's a Brewers fan to come join us on the 15th because that's going to be a fantastic episode. But today, we are going to be covering the Wisconsin Badgers. Yes, they took a loss, but there's some things to take away. There's some positives, and they have 2 games left. So there's still some time left in the regular season for them to turn things around. And we're going to cover the Bucks' last 3 games. And we're going to look forward to what the Bucks have. They have a West Coast road trip, and we'll have the entire West Coast road trip going into next week. So we can forecast that. But right now, we're going to start with Badgers versus Illinois.
Yeah. Mike, what's it up to you? I'll let you go first.
Well, gentlemen, happy National Oreo Day. That was a fun fact. Jake, thanks for the fun facts. That's going to be the next expectation. You got to come in with the fun facts, every Wednesday because that's a really good one.
Don't test me. I will.
Do it. I'm all for it. But no, obviously, pretty disappointed. I thought first off, before I get into my takeaways, I thought the Howard Moore ceremony was really awesome. That came as a surprise to a lot of people that he came out in public like that. I can't believe it's been 5 years since he's been, on a Wisconsin basketball court since 2019. Time flies. And no, it was just great to see that. I was fired up. As you guys know, I was there at the game at the Kohl Center, and it was so cool to see that. Everybody was pumped. I mean, I was fired up sitting from the freaking stands. I'm like, all right, what do I got to do to get out there, right? So, so I just wanted to give that a quick shout out. So,
can I throw something in there too? I want to give the Illinois coach credit for saying something about that in the post game before taking any other questions or anything like that. I think that's a classy gesture by him as well.
I love that both coaching staffs wore the tie for him to honor him. That I thought was like, that's pretty cool, man.
That's like next level classy.
Yes, hats off to you.
Yeah, Coach Underwood said, if that doesn't make you tear up, I don't know what would. So, kudos to, like you said, Illinois' coaching staff as well. But, getting into this game, the one thing I'm going to call out about the game, obviously we saw Steven Crowell get into foul trouble, right? He only played 14 minutes his last game. That being said, my first call out is the bench production. I thought we definitely could have used a little bit more in this game. Credit to John Blackwell. He did play, 24 minutes, 7 points, 3 rebounds. He's a big reason why we got away with playing small, so to speak, against Illinois in this game. But it was very unfortunate because he did foul out. He did get in some foul trouble as well in this game. And I thought in terms of, when you see a guy like Marcus Domask just absolutely going off on us and not making really any adjustments, I thought a potential adjustment could have been had John Blackwell stayed out of foul trouble, maybe put put him on Marcus Domask for a little bit just to switch things up because I mean it seemed like he literally got anything he wanted. So I just wanted to make that quick call out. But I mean, as far as everybody else, you're talking, Carter Gilmore had one good play that and 3 points in 4 minutes. Between Connor Seagen and Nolan Winter, they combined for 2 points and 3 rebounds in 9 minutes total, right? So, and then Marcus Ilver played 6 minutes and he had one, I don't want to say garbage 3-point ball, but, he had, that was his, contribution. So I really expected a little more from this bench as the year progressed. Obviously, we saw a lot of positives. Good news is it sounds like Kamari McGee is back to practicing as of today, which is good. I'm hoping to God we can have him back by the conference tournament at bare minimum.
I'm hoping he plays tomorrow night, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it sounds like he wasn't a full go, so I'm not too optimistic. I mean, yeah, anything can happen, granted, but I'm excited to get him back. Hope to God he does come back because I want to give Chucky a little more of a break. He's playing really good ball, and I want him to be, come tournament time, we're going to need him at his best. So if Kamari McGee can come back, that would be great. So, but the first call it was I could definitely see some improvement in bench production. Number 2, this is more so about the history of Wisconsin versus Illinois. So, unfortunately, it's not the most positive, but quietly, Wisconsin is starting to trend downward against Illinois. So, since the Kohl Center has been open since 1998, right? Nobody has been able to do this until now against Wisconsin, and that's to win 4 straight at the Kohl Center. Illinois is now the first team to do that to us. So, and actually, not only that, Illinois has won 7 straight against Wisconsin. Our last win against them came in 2019. So even with Kofi Cockburn out of the Big Ten, we seem to still have issues, with Illinois. So, it's very unfortunate that they seem to have our Achilles heel for the longest time. Starting to Wisconsin against Ohio State for football since the last time we beat them. But no, it's something that we just have to clean up. And I hope, going forward, hopefully we get a crack at them in the Big Ten tournament. That would be nice because I don't think we necessarily played bad in this game. We definitely trended upwards in some categories, but it's just something I want to call up because it's unfortunate with how, I don't want to say embarrassing, how disappointed I have been right now with the regular season. It's something that I'm hoping we can correct in the near future.
So I'll say this just on the subject of of Chucky Hepburn is seeing a lot of people of XYZ player needs to take minutes from Chucky Hepburn. And bottom line is Kamari McGee is hurt, and even third string quote unquote point guard, if you wanted to say Isaac Lindsey, he's been hurt. And then John Blackwell obviously fouled out in this game. So there's nobody to take minutes from Chucky who's not even playing bad to begin with. So I want to throw that out there. But Jake, what's it out to you from this game?
Few things. I agree with Mike on a few things. One, I do not think that we played bad. Offensively, I think that we took good shots, and I think that we stuck to our game plan on the offensive end. On defense and coaching, I have 2 things that I want to say. One, I think the rotation could change. I like Marcus Ilver. We do not have a lot of guys that like to stretch the floor from the big man position. Stephen Krell's scared half the time, and we all know Tyler Wall's not a shooter. Marcus Ilver actually has size, and he has ability out there. I don't think it would be a bad thing to switch minutes with Carter Gilmore.
It has been
Call me crazy.
Case.
Call me crazy. We've been playing bad. It's not a bad thing to try some new things, right? And Tyler and I give credit to Milwaukee Bucks head coaches over the last couple of years, Bud and Griffin, and we give credit to Coach Doc for trying new lineups now. And if you were going to do that, that time was over these last couple of weeks. But I still think that you can still do that now. And, you never know. Maybe he has a good connection with Chucky, and the pick and pop game with him just goes crazy. You never know, right? Or, him and John Blackwell have a great 2-man game. I'm just saying those are just ideas that guard could throw out there.
Yep.
So I want to talk about Tyler Wall first. Buddy, boy, I love Tyler Wall. I truly do. I appreciate everything that he's done as a Wisconsin Badger, and I'm not here to talk bad about him. But at a certain point, you have to like tell yourself, I'm gonna not get abused in this game, and like at least play a little bit tougher. Now, it hurt him because Steven Crowell was getting silly fouls, and I want to touch on Steven Crowell just for a second because Steven Crowell has to be smarter than what he was.
Mm-hmm.
When he had 3 fouls, Tyler, I know you pointed this out in the chat.
Yep.
When he has 3 fouls, absolutely cannot get that 4th foul like that.
Poking at the ball when you're 16 feet away from the rim.
Yeah.
On a play that's going to, at best, go out of bounds. Like
in a game that was still in the balance, and you have to understand your impact on the floor. We're getting out rebounded.
Really poor situational awareness.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things wrong with that play. And for you to put yourself in that position is just absolutely terrible. You cannot do that. And I think part of that hurt Tyler Wall because Tyler Wall is used to playing defense a certain way where, you usually kind of funnel things to the bigger people anyways, right? Now, Domask was hitting some crazy fadeaway jumpers.
Yeah,
it was just kind of his day. And there's really nothing you could do about some of those shots.
He's got some good-ass footwork.
He does.
God damn.
Tyler Wall on a couple of those shots, and I know that he was kind of getting pushed into the rim. Domask made some tough shots, dude.
Tyler Wall had him right here a few times.
I mean, there's nothing you could do. I mean,
you give credit. You tip the cap to that.
Now, the thing that I would have done, I would not have put John Blackwell on him. I would have put either Chucky or Max on him. Those are guys, when you think about it, right? Like Pat Bev, right? Like Pat Bev can get underneath people and kind of just disrupt them from the ground up. And you don't think that would bother you, but as a shooter, it does. So I would have liked Max. His toughness is great. He would have been good on him. And obviously Chucky would have pressured the ball a little bit and made him get rid of it. But then you kind of risk the run with the mismatches on the with the other guys, right? So we were playing small anyways, but just would have been difficult.
I'm going to throw this out there real quick. You could, I mean, I thought about now that you were just talking about that, maybe even like if you're talking Max Klesmit could potentially, take it. Maybe, and if we run into these guys again, who knows? Maybe that this is going to be different. But if you throw Max Klesmit on Domask, maybe, Tyler Wall goes and guards Hawkins, who's 6'10", and that's who Max Klesmit was guarding, the entire game for the most part, right? So maybe you switch that up that next time. Just, I was hoping like at some point they would, make some sort of an adjustment on that. And it's something I'm a little disappointed in, but, I get it, whatever. But I think that's something to look out for, should we run into these dudes again.
Well, the other problem that you kind of run into is who takes Shannon, right? And Shannon's going to get a lot of points.
And that's where Chucky, I think you almost got to keep him. I don't know.
I mean, he's one of those guys, though. Shannon is one of those guys, in my opinion, where like he's going to get his. So he's going to get his. You can't let another guy get his as well, because then they just become almost impossible to beat. I mean, we scored 83 points, and it was like we had no chance.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Brad's question about trying some zone for a few possessions?
I don't hate it. The only problem is they shot 9 of 16 from 3.
Yeah.
My thing with that is if you're going to play, say, a 2-3, your middleman has to be Steven Crowell.
Yeah.
I think even if that was a consideration they were going to make, they didn't have the guy they needed to man the middle. And I will say this, if you wanted to get nuts and try to play like a 1-3-1, I think Tyler Wall could actually be a really good middleman for that.
Or even the top.
He has the mobility.
Honestly, with the trap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending what your intentions are,
as a small ball defense, I would be interested to see that.
Yeah. I mean, depending if you want to do a legit 1-3-1 trap or
right.
Yeah, it depends. Pick your poison on that. But I think, take for example a team like Rutgers, right? I think maybe that's a team we could do it against because I know they shot lights out against us last time we played them, but overall they are not the best 3-point shooting team at all. So maybe something like that. Maybe against a team like Rutgers. Probably not against Purdue.
No.
But like a team like
said
Rutgers,
the drive set up the 3 zone should stop the drive. That depends on the team. Certain teams should have guards that know where to dribble to attack the zone.
Well, and also on top of that, Illinois, after the first, I don't know, 7-8 minutes, they really were like, okay, we're not going to play this slow ass pace. And they started pushing the ball. So we weren't even really able to set up in our defense anyways. So in my opinion, I don't think his zone want to work because nobody was back on defense because Shannon was down the floor already.
I think
they're so good at transition.
So good.
I think that's a fair question to bring up in general, just maybe not specifically for this Illinois game.
Yeah, Illinois, and don't take this as the Badgers are dead, by the way. Illinois is a legit Final Four threat.
Oh yeah.
Legit.
They're going to be. Did they move up to top 10? Are they top 10
now?
They
were
are they
12, I think, as of last. Well, this week I'm not sure. Maybe 10 to 12. I want to say roughly.
Sure. I'm just going to look.
Yeah, probably right around 10 to 12 is my guess.
They're 12.
They're 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So and they're not gonna move really too far down after losing to a close game to Purdue last night. So
probably won't move at all, to be honest with you.
So
yeah.
Either way, right? I got one last thing I want to bring up real quick. This is kind of you guys can answer it if you want, but this team really has to answer who is the leader. Honestly, when Crowell goes out with foul trouble, why is there nobody going to talk to him? After that reach-in foul, why is nobody like, hey, man, come on, And, we have guys like Chuck Hepburn who've been here for a long time now. We all know the story about Tyler Wall. Tyler Wall is a senior graduate. So, even Klesmit, who is, a veteran in terms of college basketball goes. There's just a lot of leadership on this team, but there's not one leader. Yeah. And, that could become a problem. Whereas, you watch all these other teams and, they know who their guy is. Even, Illinois is stacked, right? And we just talked about that. They have a lot of good players. Shannon's the guy, okay? Mm-hmm. He's the voice. He's the one that has the final word. And I think you need that to keep everybody in line a little bit. So they got to find some shit out. But I think finding out who is the guy, who's the man, I think that should be number one. And in my opinion, I would say Tyler Wall. Tyler Wall needs to be that guy.
Yeah.
And he seems a little bit too soft-spoken for that.
I
agree.
It's interesting. Brad said leadership falls on Wall because he is the biggest senior, the most experienced player on the team. So I don't disagree with Wall. I think as far as finding the guy goes, I think the Badgers are good enough to have multiple guys be the guy because we've seen multiple guys be the guy. We've seen Chucky do it. We've seen Max do it. We've seen AJ do it. We've seen Tyler Wall do it. And I've talked about it in the past that over the course of his career, Steven Crowell has hit some really big, really clutch threes in his time. Mm-hmm. But it just needs to be somebody, and I think this is what Jake is getting at, is to take a next step above that. And you have the guy and then a bunch of guys who can step up. So I guess I think Jake is saying maybe to even go a step beyond that.
Yeah. I said vocal leadership last week in one of my goals too. That's what it really kills. That kills.
That's what Brad said. Brad said a verbal leader.
Yep. So.
All right. So my two things. First one is closing games. My thing, and this is. Honestly, this was a really good game. You get to the second half, and I'll say 35 out of the 40 minutes, this was a really good basketball game. But the last 5 minutes, and this with my opinion, comes down to free throws. And there were 2 free throws missed by 2 different players that I really felt were the Badgers had a big fish, and it wriggled and slipped out of their hands with those 2 missed free throws. That's how I felt about this game specifically. And then John Blackwell fouling out actually really hurt that as well. We've seen in the last couple games since he's been back healthy that John Blackwell has been a guy who can get the Badgers some offense when their offense is struggling. So in my mind, at that point, the other guy that needs to step up to be the guy is AJ Storr. He's the other guy that can score at all 3 levels of the offense. And in my opinion, he's the guy that should take that upon himself to be like, okay, our team needs a bucket. I'm the guy that can get it from anywhere. Mm-hmm. Chucky has that capability. I just don't think Chucky's quite as good close to the rim as a guy like AJ who has more size and more athleticism. And then my other thing is adversity. So this goes first for the team and then secondly for fans. First one, team first. Like I just said with closing games, Scary last week brought it up with last year's record in close games. The Badgers were really good. They were like the best in the country at, games within 5 points. They were like 10-1 or something like that. It might have even been more in games that were decided by 5 points or less. In 2024, they're 2-4 in games decided by 5 or less. And if you flip, say, even just 3 of those 4 losses into wins, you're looking at Wisconsin being 21-8 instead of 18-11. That feels a lot different.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah.
And then fans. This is just something that this can go for any team in, up until you're mathematically eliminated from whatever postseason you're chasing. Just because something hasn't gone well in recent history doesn't mean things can't go well in the future. It doesn't matter what team, what sport you're talking about. I am honestly just tired of seeing this team isn't going anywhere.
It's like, dude, it's literally like they never learn. If you would have talked, like, this is going to be a hypothetical, but if you would have talked to a Packers fan in October and asked them, what's the ceiling for Jordan Love? There would have been not very many positive takeaways.
The answer that you probably would have gotten was bench him, start Clifford.
Yeah, would have
It's
been.
amazing how many times I heard that. Sorry to get off topic, but yeah.
No, it's fine. And, if you would have asked a Bucks fan even a month ago, is this team a threat for the title? Now, you would have heard a lot of no's.
Yep.
You wouldn't hear that from us. I promise you that.
Nope.
Just like during the trade deadline. Oh, I plan on hammering home on this. Trade Bobby Portis. Trade Pat Connaughton. How about now? Say that now. I dare you to say that now. You look like an idiot. I'm sorry, but it's true. Look at how Bobby's balling right now. Look at Pat Connaughton play defense right now.
That's a combo.
The boys are balling. And all they needed was a freaking 6'1" guy that runs his mouth a million miles an hour. Who would have thought, right? A little bit of toughness goes a long way. But
and I'll throw an experienced coach. Doc needs his flowers for what this team is doing right now.
Agreed. And the Badgers have an experienced coach. They have a guy who's been there. Have a guy who knows how to win. They have players who know how to win. Just because they haven't been winning, I agree, Tyler. They go these next 2 games. God forbid they win these next 2 games. Please do not skyrocket your expectations.
There's a lot of fans out there that want them to lose these next 2 games for a certain guy wanting to get canned. They want to get canned. So
then they're not a true fan. I'm sorry.
That's people will say stuff like that. I guarantee it.
I've seen it plenty
people will be
on Twitter
like,
already.
Great. So the Badgers won these last 2 games. Now we have to deal with another year of Greg Gard. People will say stuff like that. Guaranteed.
Yeah, they will.
Taylor, no, I have not watched Pat Beverly's podcast. Brad said verbal leadership again. And Jake, to your point, they have an experienced coach. They have a guy who's been there and won games, and they've done well in the Big Ten tournament in times. So it's, like I said, just because February was not good doesn't mean that March can't be good.
Agreed.
Because January, December, and November were awesome, obviously, for them to get up to number 6.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a bigger sample size, but that's neither here nor there. So going into next week, the Badgers play tomorrow night against Rutgers at home, and then they play Sunday at Purdue. Mike, what are a couple of goals that you have for those 2 games?
So number 1, I got Find Jesus as number 1. I'm kidding. I just wrote that down just to be funny. But seriously, no, start praying. But no, I'm kidding. We kind of talked about it a little bit, and we brought it up so many times. We're playing, 2 teams that have incredible size down low. So I'm calling out Big Steve specifically for this next stretch. As far as, he can't be getting into foul trouble like this, like he has been, like he did in this last game, and even a couple, like he's not on the best stretch right now. We need him. We need Steven Crowell in double figures these next 2 games if we're going to have a shot to win. Just my view. You got
sure.
Cliff.
Rutgers, I think they could do it, but Purdue,
I don't know.
Sure.
Rutgers has got Cliff. I forget Amon Mori. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. That's a big athletic center down there that
Yeah, he's strong.
I mean, he doesn't have as much weight as Edie, but that dude's set a clear cut 7'1". He will dominate down low, and he's very athletic. But anyway, with those two big guys, I think I'm gonna have, we always watch him, right? But I really want to put the microscope on Steve for this final stretch because we're definitely going to need it. And then number two, we talked about it already. I literally wrote down, find a vocal leader on this team. We already spoke about it. I would love to see Tyler Wall, just like if somebody, something goes wrong, just like get on him in a positive way. Keep your freaking head up. Let's go play ball. Or like,
Rally
I don't know, just like go for a loose ball, get freaking pumped up about it, and just like get the team fired up. Like from a vocal standpoint, it doesn't have to be Tyler. It could be anybody. Like literally, like I think what game was that? It was Blackwell. I think it was Blackwell and Chucky. We lost the game. Was it? I think those two dudes were getting like after it defensively, and you can tell they wanted it versus everybody else, going for those loose balls, getting those jump balls, creating turnovers. I just want to see somebody just like bust out like vocally, like in a "let's fucking go" or something like that, just to get this team juiced. Getting these dudes wanting to like fight for you, the rest of the game, because we're gonna need it for this final stretch. I think this is a must-win in my view against Rutgers because Purdue, I'm sorry, I don't like my chances against Purdue. I know they won the conference outright. They looked like a national championship team last night against Illinois. I just don't think we're there right now.
It's fair.
But this Rutgers game, in my view, if we're going to get some sort of positive vibes going into this conference tournament with the opportunity to play 3 more games, which this team, in my opinion, could need, we're going to need that because we need to build up some momentum before tournament play because the way it's trending, we're at like a 6 seed, I think, right now in the latest projections. I think if we lose these last 2 plus the conference tournament game, I think we could drop down as low as like an 8 in my view. So we got to get some sort of positive vibes going, when it really, really counts.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, I mean, I've talked about momentum being a bigger deal in college basketball than anything else. If the Badgers can get the rig rolling, and even if they do end up losing to Purdue, but they can win, 2, 3, 4 games in the conference tournament and roll into the NCAA tournament on a high note, or even after coming off of a loss to, say, Purdue or Illinois, but now you're facing, Colgate again, I think the Badgers are going to feel a lot better having played some really tough opponents and rattled off some wins or a close, tough loss to a really good team. And to Scary's point last week where we asked him, what does a successful season look like? And I think we all were in consensus agreement that if the Badgers get to the Sweet 16, that would be a successful season. And if they get beyond that, anything is just gravy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my 2 goals for next week, my first one is to control what you can control and block out anything external. So, I understand that these are college athletes, college kids who are probably, on social media more often than a professional athlete might be. But just control what you control. And it ties into my second one, which is to have fun. That's my next goal for the team, is to have fun. It looks like, when they get fired up, they're good, but have fun and play it looser. When you get that, like, okay, we really need to win, we really need this, like all your muscles are tensed up and you put all that pressure on you, it makes you rigid. Nothing's flowing.
Nothing to lose,
everything
right?
feels tense. It feels constrictive. Loosen up. Take a deep breath. Let the air out of your chest. Like, just have some fun. And then I'm going to touch on this. Yeah. I'm going to touch on this again because I brought it up the last time the Badgers played Purdue. Let Zach Edey get his. You just talked about it with Illinois. Like, Shannon's going to get his. Let Zach Edey get his. Control their 3-point shooters. They have one. I'm not going to count that because that's not a guy who plays much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that shoot 40% or above on 3-pointers that play at least 90 minutes a game. So let Zach Edey get his. Control their 3-point shooting. Jake, I'll let you give your goals, and then we can answer Brad's question.
I'm going to answer it a little bit like this with this first one. My first one is, can we play some consistent basketball? we go. I've talked about this for a couple weeks now. We go on scoring droughts on offense, and then we let other teams go on scoring runs on defense, at different periods of the game. And it's like, can we not? Can you not let them go on a 20-5 run and then we not score for 5 minutes? Like that. That's not helping you win basketball games. And also, to Tyler's point, that's not fun. Okay? I played basketball. I played organized sports. That's not fun. Okay? I've been on the other end of that. It's horrible. You and your teammates kind of looking at each other like, you guard him. No, you guard him. No, you check up. No, you box out better. And you kind of start playing the blame game, man. And you can't have that. That's how you implode from the inside. So let's just play some consistent basketball. Rebound. Share the ball on offense, dive to the rim, get on those loose balls. Let's get the crowd fired up. Tyler Wall, you cannot go out with a loss, bro. You got to go out with a
There
W,
you go.
guy.
Yep.
My last one, you got to create your own luck, guys. I mean, at a certain point, we have to stop blaming, oh, this team did this, oh, this team did this, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do this. Go make it happen yourself, okay? That could be, you could take that into your daily life if you really want, because nobody's going to wait around for you to be great. You got to decide to do that by yourself. So this could be for real life, and this is specifically for the Wisconsin Badger basketball team. Tyler Wall, if you're really good with your footwork, be really good with your footwork. Stephen Carell, if you have the ability to shoot threes, shoot the damn ball.
Face the basket at least. Fuck.
Oh, my God, dude. Literally nothing makes me want to chuck my remote through my TV more than when I see his giant ass straddling the three-point line. What are you doing? And then, oh my God. And then when he got called for a moving screen while he was doing that,
Yep.
bro, when I tell you, I almost ripped the goddamn thing off the wall. Oh, I was so pissed. I was like, are you shitting me right now? First of all, nobody respects you right now because you're not even looking at the basket. And then you get a moving screen? You're useless right now. I was so mad, but
Been there.
Create your own luck, okay? Let's do this ourselves.
So, Brad asked the question, what do you think is the main reason for the collapse over the last 10 games? And Jake, I just want you to go back to your first point.
Yeah. It's inconsistencies
Yeah.
on offense and defense, man. That's really what it comes down to. This team, when they were number 6, they were playing consistent on both ends. And one thing that Wisconsin's always hung their hat on is defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always been defense. What happened to the defense? Now, I understand the game is faster. You're not going to hold people to 55 points anymore. But you sure as hell are not allowing people to shoot 85% in the paint. That's ridiculous.
I think I'm sorry to put in there. I think going back to Brad's point, I think this goes all the way back. I'm sorry. I think this goes all the way back to Nebraska. I think a screw was knocked loose after that game. I think it's a mental thing. That's my point. I think Scary somewhat. I forgot what his saying exactly was last week, between the ears or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I think it's along those lines. I think that blowing that 17, 19-point lead at Nebraska when we had them on the ropes, clearly we're riding high, and then all of a sudden we just lost it, and then some that game. And I think as far as overcoming that adversity, overcoming even leads in the second half where we can get to the tie ball game, but then we lose it again by like 1 or 2 possessions. Then we tie it again, then we lose it again. I think it is a mental thing. Ultimately, I think a screw was knocked loose after that Nebraska game ultimately, but that doesn't mean you can't control your controllables. Kind of what Tyler's point said at this point. You can control whether that's grabbing rebounds, hustling, any sort of things along those lines. But that's the reason I think this team has somewhat collapsed. I think it's a mental issue first and foremost, ultimately.
So my dad said droughts. Michael said confidence, mental issues. I don't know that it's a mental issue necessarily. I'll say confidence could be a thing. And to tie this into the droughts, it's like I was saying with the Illinois game and Jake's point on trying to find the guy is just somebody take it upon themselves to be like, I'm going to go get us a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
Steve brought up, did anyone mention Essegian? If he gets unleashed and makes threes, the team plays looser. He's got to be able to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think that Connor Essegian's lack of playing time over the course of the season is Greg Gard's fault. Like, Greg Gard is not playing him for a reason.
Yeah.
And we've seen we've seen the things happen. He gets into games, and 2 possessions later, he's taken out because he's not doing the things he's supposed to be there. They're supposed to be doing there.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, we like seeing Connor Essegian shoot well. He's also got to be controlled aggressive. Sometimes he gets a little bit too let it fly for my liking when he's, you know, NBA range 3-point depth. But then there's other times where it's like, okay, he had enough space where I felt like he could have shot it. And we've seen this with Chucky Hepburn a little bit too, is like, when you're open, shoot it. I think over the last, this is probably more in the smaller recent history with this losing streak or set of games, is guys making one extra pass too many times. And that again, I'm going to tie that into Jake's point of somebody being the guy, is be the guy to take the shot. If you're open, nobody's going to be like, oh, you could have made one extra pass to somebody else that was open. If you're open, shoot.
Yeah.
Goes for Stephen Crowell too. When you're open, shoot. We know you can make threes at a pretty decent clip. When you're open, shoot it.
And you know what? 2 things real quick. I'm going to go to Brad. I'm going to combine Brad and Steve's comment together. Brad said players need to create luck, and I think Gard needs to take chances with other players, like Jake said. And Steve said when Klesman was hitting shots, we were at our best. Now that we don't have shot makers, you see the win-loss record. And that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching this Illinois game. And I was like, and I know that it was kind of garbage time, like Mike said, but Ilver is a shot taker and a shot maker. And for Greg Gard, this could be something that could go against him for all the people that want to get him fired. You can't keep hitting the same button and expecting a different result. Sometimes you have to hit different button combinations, man. So, I mean, he's got to try something else, man. You can't keep going to the same rotation. And I understand that you're used to a rhythm. And there is something to be said for teams getting used to a rotation. And I've had this argument about the Bucks, completely different scenario. But Ilver is a shot maker. You know, when Carter Gilmore's in the game with a Tyler Wall, we have no outside presence with the big men.
It's a black hole
There's no
offensively.
space. How is AJ Storr getting to the rim? There's 4 people in the paint.
Yeah.
And now you're going to kick it out and hope that Chucky or Max can bail us out.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that? That's not in the new age basketball with these stretch bigs. Honestly, I would love to see Ilver and Winter on the floor at the same time. Spread everybody out. Fuck it. We don't have anything to lose anymore.
You could see that next season plenty. I think
We
that
could.
will happen next year a lot.
I would like to see, and this, we've spent a lot of time saying that we need better from him, but I would be interested to see more of Nolan Winter and Stephen Crowell on the floor at the same time. And again, I want to tie this back into it, but Stephen Crowell, present yourself as a threat on the 3-point line. Nolan Winter doesn't have to be told that because he wants to shoot it, because he can shoot it. But Crowell can also shoot it. If you put 2 guys out there that are 6'10", 6'11",
Yep.
that can both shoot, that's how you open up the rim for AJ Storr.
Yeah.
And Stephen Crowell, if you want this plan that I just put there to work, you have to act like you're at least willing to shoot. So, I mean, like Jake said, you can't be straddling the 3-point line and expect the guy to be defending you, like you're ready to shoot, because you're clearly not. So that, and then one other thing that I'll throw out there with the quote unquote collapse is I think the injuries to Kamari McGee and John Blackwell were pretty crucial. Kamari McGee is a guy that comes in for Chucky Hepburn, gives up a couple inches of size, but you don't lose anything defensively when Kamari McGee comes into the game.
Energizer bunny.
And he's a steals merchant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw several games where he'd have 2, 3, 4 steals. That gives your offense extra possessions, and it helps your defense, obviously. And that could preserve Chucky Hepburn and give him a little bit of fuel in the tank for the end of games. And then with John Blackwell, we saw through the first 2/3 of the season where he was averaging 8, 10, 12 points a game. And then all of a sudden that's gone from the lineup for 2 weeks. So, it's a collective. It's a lot of things. Brad said, I'm not saying fire guard, but some of this is coaching too. And that's the rotations. And making Stephen Crowell realize to present himself as a threat. Greg Gard's the one that's got to tell him that. Like, Stephen Crowell should know that. But if we can see that and can say that, Greg Gard should be telling Stephen Crowell that too. Like, Steve, we know you can make threes. Act like you can make threes. Face the basket like you can make threes. So, yes, we're not by any means by saying, things that can be done on the floor don't come back to Greg Gard because we're just trying to say not to fire him because we've defended him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a collective of things here. Steve said it's such a momentum game. Steals, transition buckets, three-point shots, all huge. And I'm going to get this tattooed on my forehead at some point. Momentum is a bigger deal in college basketball than any other sport.
You can just make a sticker. I mean, that's it does the job.
It'll lose
maybe not permanent
eventually after the season. I don't think one sticker is going to last for the whole season.
I mean, you can make multiple stickers. I mean,
but that's absolutely true, and it's something that I've been saying a lot over the last month or so. James said, I'm waiting for Tennessee State to take their annual and imminent elimination from the OVC basketball tournament.
Always so random. I haven't talked about Tennessee State all year. What am I doing?
I haven't talked about Tennessee State ever in my entire life. Steve said, look at the Nebraska game. And Steve, that is something that Mike did bring up while you were doing something more important than watching the Wisco Fanatics show, which is nothing. So I'm
Steve.
Obviously, I'm kidding, Steve. All right. Well, Mike, we will have you back next Wednesday to talk about Illinois, that we did that today. Rutgers and Purdue. So we will see you then. And until then, have a good week.
Sounds good, fellas. Talk to you later. Go Bad.
Go Raiders. Go Raiders.
Oh, God. All right.
Get this guy out of here. Before he can say something out of pocket.
So there's a little backstory for people. Mike went to our rival school. Obviously, people saw the post. Tyler and I went to the Kiel game this last weekend, and Mike went to the Holsting. So he's been helping them out, doing some scouting for them for the playoffs. So I call him an honorary Raiders fan now, which he hates, but it's funny to me.
That is funny. All right, so we're gonna stick with basketball, and we're gonna switch to the Bucks. Definitely a much more upbeat conversation to have. Let's start with power pair and underrated performers. Jake, give me your power pair.
This is gonna be so fun talking about Bucks today. Also, Kiel plays tonight, so good luck to them. My first one is none other than the Greek Freak. Probably his second or third favorite day in his life today with the National Oreo Day. And playing the Bulls might be up there as well because, oh my God. Say hi to Iggy for me. How do you know Iggy? That's my dad's friend, Brad. That's random. You know Iggy? Iggy's a good dude. But I have Giannis. He averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, 5.6 assists. He shot 74% from the field, 80% from the three-point line, and 74% from the free throw line. Damn. Oh, yeah, he added in a steal and a block as well. So he finished the week as a plus 22. Also, he's very good at basketball. A 70-80-70 split. Pretty good. That'll do. My next one, I have the Energizer Bunny, Pat Bev. I think that his impact obviously goes far beyond the box score. He's just one of those guys, but he was good in the box score as well. He averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, which is wild, and 2.3 assists. He shot 48% from the field, 43 from the three-point line. He started to get the touch from behind the arc. He added 4 steals, 2 blocks. He was a -3 for the week, but again, he hey, that's what we do, Steve. That's what we do. That's what we do, dog.
Just going to leave that there for a little bit.
You want to know why, Steve? Because we see trends before they happen. Hey, Pat Bev has been absolutely everything including a verbal leader. He has done exactly what I wanted him to do. If I had one goal for Pat Bev, and this is why I was so bullish on the not trade Bobby Portis train, because we got Pat Bev, I was like, if he does one thing, I want him to get the dog out of Bobby Portis, because there is just a dog locked away right now, and you can see the difference in Bobby.
We're gonna let that flag fly when we get to the Clippers game.
Oh, Joe, you wait. So my last one before I give you the floor, my UP is Brook Lopez. Brook, in my opinion, he is the epitome of underrated performer. He has the IQ to understand when he has to shoot, when he has to score, and when he just has to play defense, right? And he did wake up Dame too. I agree with that.
Yeah, good point.
That is completely fair. He averaged 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2.6 assists. He shot 38% from the field, but 47% behind the arc. He added 5 blocks, and he was a plus 39 for the week. So, again, hats off to Brook Lopez. His game is so mature. Obviously, he's an older guy. But his game is just so mature to, understand what the team needs from him. If they need him to score 20, he's going to score 20. If he has to grab 10, 15 rebounds, he's going to go do that. If he has to help on the boards, he'll do that. He always has to block shots, and he always has to shoot threes. Those are the things that you can rely on Brook Lopez for.
Let me throw boxing out in there as well. We've had this conversation 100 times, and people still don't get it. Ooh, he's 7 feet tall, and he only had 3 rebounds. Please, I don't want to do this. I promise you I don't want to do this, but if I have to make a Brook Lopez box out compilation of guards and Giannis grabbing rebounds to start the fast break, I will do it just so people shut up about Brook Lopez not averaging a lot of rebounds just because he's tall.
It's like people only this is so frustrating. I don't want to talk shit about anybody. I almost have to explain what I'm thinking. I don't mean this. I love her very much, but when my girlfriend watches football, she watches the ball. That's not. I'm not I don't want to talk shit, but she doesn't have the football IQ to watch a wide receiver and see how he releases, watch a linebacker, watch a safety. She doesn't understand that stuff, and that's okay. That's fine. She's actually gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. It's most of these people that we interact with that say that stuff about Brooke, they only watch the ball go in and out of the hoop. They don't watch the other nuances of the game.
The game is over.
It's ridiculous, dude. Learn ball, okay?
Yeah,
that's all I got. Floor is yours.
So my power pair and my underrated performer all tie heavily into the Clippers game. So I'll say potentially a little bit of recency bias by me, but one guy there is definitely an apology for him coming for. So I'm gonna start with Bobby Portis. He's part of my power pair. He averaged 17.7 points per game, 11.7 rebounds, and 1.7 steals in the last 3 games. Actually, there is a Bobby Portis apology for him coming soon. Steve,
we will touch on that.
A little bit ahead of me.
We will touch on that. We will touch on that.
I also have Damian Lillard. It's my turn to have Dame this week. 24.7 points a game, carried against the Clippers, that 41-point outburst there. Also averaged 4.3 rebounds, 4.3 assists. He shot 39, 40, 96 on the week on field goal, 3-point free throw. Bobby was 50, 27.3, 72.7. So not the best 3-point shooting week for Bobby, but still a good week overall. And then my underrated performer, to go to Steve's question, is it possible AJ gets run in the playoffs? My underrated performer is AJ Green. I love the way that he stays ready. And I'm going to tie this right into Steve's question. Is it possible that he gets run in the playoffs? It's possible. If we get to a situation where Malik Beasley isn't having a good shooting game like he wasn't against the Clippers, it is possible that in the fourth quarter of a game, you see a little more AJ Green than Malik Beasley. Just in an effort for doctors to find the hot hand.
Yeah.
And Malik Beasley, despite people talking shit about him all year, has been pretty good defensively. So you sacrifice a little bit of that defense to try to find your offensive shooter, your spot-up shooter. I think it's possible.
I agree.
And he's, just like I said, another guy who needs his flowers from the Clippers game for hitting some absolutely massive threes and not being afraid of the moment. So I'm willing to say it's possible that he gets time in the playoffs. Brooke said Brooke will let Giannis have the rebound for his stat line, pushing him to MVP. Hey, I guarantee you, if you posed that question to Brooke Lopez and you were like, hey, would you say that you box out so that Giannis can grab rebounds to help him get another MVP? He would say yes. He would totally take credit for it. I bet that's how he would be. His personality, he would easily take credit for that.
AJ compared to JJ, that's a crazy comparison. I think AJ's got more body, obviously, so it allows him to be a little bit more versatile on defense. But the range and the quick trigger, I can see it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, give him a little bit more of the Bucks play more of like a spread out, kind of set shot than, AJ Green being a guy who's going to come in and the Bucks are going to have one ball handler and 3 screeners, and AJ Green's just going to come running around all 3 screens.
Right.
So I think that's a little bit of a different, but that's more about team. Kyle Korver, I see a little bit more. I see a little more Kyle Korver than JJ Redick, because Kyle Korver was more of that spot up shooter. Whereas JJ would, like I said, you're running him off of 3 screens with one guy handling the ball because you're trying to get JJ the shot. And that's kind of a scheme thing. So it's not to say that that's not a good comparison, but
I was just gonna say, let's hope that AJ likes Milwaukee a lot more than JJ. So
yeah, I think that's probably. James said there's a reason people say the stats don't tell the whole story. There are things you do that don't show up on the stat line. That is 110,000% true. How many times do you think we've said that on this show since we started it a little over 3 years ago?
I can't even count. I was just going to say, James, it's almost like you've been tuning in. It's almost like you've been tuning in.
There's a reason people say that stats don't tell the whole story. People like us.
I mean, my God, there is so many different nuances to every single game. Baseball is crazy, man. There's so many different variables in baseball. Basketball is same thing. Scoring runs, scoring droughts, timeouts. Momentum is huge in basketball. Huge. Yep. It can flip just like that. And obviously, when we talk about the Clippers game, we will have a discussion about that. Yep. And football, too. Football, you could be ahead by 2 scores. All of a sudden, you fumble the ball, and the team gets a touchdown in the next play. That's a whole new ball game.
Yep.
You have to completely change how you're calling plays. So, yes.
All right. Let's start with the Clippers game. What stood out to you from the Clippers game last week?
The Clippers, I'm going to talk about the Hornets first.
Clippers, yeah, let's do that one last because that one is the most recent. So let's go back to the farthest back one.
Let's go back to the Hornets. Excuse me. So I'm going to be completely blunt when I say this. I do not think the Bucks gave a fuck about this game. I think that they knew that they had a game on ESPN the next day after they just pounded the Hornets 3 times in this season, including 2 days prior to this.
Yep.
And they were just like, okay, well, we can half-ass this and just walk away with a W. Now, obviously, that's not what they did because they held them under 100 points again. The Hornets did not score over 100 in any game they played the Bucks. The Bucks ended up setting a franchise record with this win, largest margin of victory in a 4-game season series versus any opponent. So, great job. The 70-71 Bucks were really good, by the way, if you didn't know. That guy, Lou Cinder, he could play ball.
Yeah.
He could play ball.
Crazy that you never hear that guy come up when you talk about all-time leading scorers and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why don't you hear about his name?
Yeah, nobody ever brings his name up.
Yeah, Lou Alcindor's the GOAT. But Giannis in this one, just casual, 10 of 15. I mean, he scored 24 points, dude. He barely tried, honestly. Damian Lillard hit 3 3-pointers. This was a good confidence boost game for him, in my opinion. Brook was doing his thing. He was plus 17. Jay Crowder scored 4 points, and he was a plus 17. So, I mean, he was doing it on defense. Malik Beasley was on fire. 5 3-pointers for him. Bobby Portis with a double-double off the bench. Really starting his 6th Man of the Year campaign, by the way. He's really starting.
If Marcus Smart can win Defensive Player of the Year for only the post All-Star section of the season, Bobby Portis can win 6th Man of the Year for only the post All-Star portion.
He leads all players with most double doubles off the bench this year. So, I mean, he's doing something.
He was close to all double doubles period last season.
Yeah, I know. He was crazy. Just one quick shout out I want to give. Damon Beasley combined for 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. They shot 12 of 26 from the field and 8 of 15 behind the three-point line. So the backcourt was absolutely balling in this one. They also added 2 steals, and that's pretty much all she wrote.
So I'm gonna say, especially in the first quarter, the ball movement just beautiful ball movement in the first quarter of this game.
Yeah.
Bobby Portis was working in the paint, and I think still something we don't give Bobby Portis enough credit for is his offensive rebounding. I've said this over the last couple weeks, is in order to get better defensively, especially in transition, you have to sacrifice a little bit of offensive rebounding. But Bobby Portis is still doing work. So I want to give him credit for that. Getting into the second quarter, the Bucks offense slowed down a little bit, but then they got really efficient after that. They dialed the offensive efficiency up and went on a 21-6 run in the second quarter. And Malik Beasley has officially broken out of his slump. He did have a bad game against the Clippers, which we'll get there, but Malik Beasley's playing really well since the All-Star break. And, Jake mentioned Giannis' stats. He had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists at halftime.
Yeah.
And I want to give Brook Lopez credit because, again, he's not he's not going to do 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 blocks every game. He might do each of those things individually once in a while. But Brook Lopez at halftime had 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals. So, Brook Lopez is just doing what needs to be done. The Bucks were 9 of 18 on threes in the first half, 23 of 42 on field goals in the first half, and 15 of 17 at the free throw line in the first half. Really good.
Yeah.
Steve said it's interesting how Doc is making improvements through practice, less 5-on-5 sessions and more drill work and walkthroughs. And I'm going to get to a quote by Bobby Portis, actually, too, when we talk about some of these other games about film also. Second half, getting into the third quarter, the Hornets got the lead as low as 13. Both teams were just hitting threes, and I want to give credit because I think Brandon Miller is actually going to be a really good player.
Yeah, he is.
He's got tons of potential. If I were the Hornets, I would just give him the keys and be like, take us where you can, and let's find out what you and LaMelo can do starting next season. Brandon Miller is going to be a really good basketball player.
Yeah, he is. He needs to put on a little weight so he can get better at getting to the rim, but he's got a good shot.
Yeah. Bucks running their offense through Giannis, got their lead up to 18 at the end of the third quarter. Brook Lopez hit a couple threes, got another block in the fourth. Doc emptied the bench. The Hornets were able to cut the lead to 11. But even with a lineup of Bobby, Pat, Gallinari, Beverly, and AJ Green, the Bucks were still able to hold Charlotte under 100 again. Now, I want to go through fundamental failures really quick. 3 missed free throws. The Bucks were 17 of 20. Allowed 9 points off turnovers. That's very low. And 15 second chance points is a little high. 27 fundamental failure points. That's fantastic. Anything under 35, I think, is good. So be under 30 is even better. I already brought up Brandon Miller. Brook Lopez. He now has the most seasons of 100 blocks and 100 made threes. He officially broke his tie with Rasheed Wallace. They were both tied with 4 seasons of 100 blocks, 100 threes. Brook Lopez now stands alone in that category. He has 5 seasons of 100 threes and 100 blocks. So good for Brook Lopez. He's got a record that should stand for a good while.
Until Wembanyama breaks it.
I can see Miles Turner doing it, but I just don't know if he's going to get there with the threes because I don't think he shoots enough, and I don't think he's going to get enough shots on that Pacers team.
Wembanyama will definitely break it.
Yeah.
He will shoot enough 3-pointers. I promise you that.
Okay. And then you brought up Jay Crowder. He brought up the 4 points, but it's still plus 17. I think we need to give credit for Jay Crowder, how good of a cutter that he is.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where being a veteran, that's one of those things that just kind of, again, doesn't show up in the stat sheet. But being a good cutter and making it so, and I'll give credit to Bobby Portis for this too, being able to come into what the Bucks call the dunker area and essentially the lane line extended, but just being kind of behind the basket and then cutting up right underneath it. And you can either get layups, or Bobby Portis was doing this was he would get that shot or get that ball, and he would kick it out to Malik Beasley in the corner for threes, and Beasley was knocking him down. So that's something that I think is an underrated thing. Brad said comparing the Badgers with the Bucks, Doc is willing to take chances like playing AJ Moore. I don't know that it's necessarily taking a chance, but I don't think the Badgers have somebody on their bench that can make an impact like AJ Green.
Not on both ends.
Not on both ends. And I like Connor Essegian, but he hasn't shown me enough this season to show me that is what he was last season even.
Yeah.
Much less to have progressed.
Yeah.
I think AJ Green is having a much better second year on the team than Connor Essegian is. I still don't think it's that Greg Gard isn't willing to change. I think he's just kind of limited options when guys are hurt or in foul trouble. So we can go to the Bulls game. Steve, hold on to your rants because we'll get to that because that annoys the hell out of me too. But yeah, let's go to the Bucks Bulls game. Let's throw it to you from that.
Oh, if you don't start by saying that Giannis completely shit on the city of Chicago, you're not doing it right.
Here. Right there. Giannis is the MVP. He wrote that right there.
Yeah. He owned this entire game. He went on. It was like the Giannis show. This felt like the third movie for Giannis. Watching this one, everything was him. The offense, the defense, everything was him. We had a little bit of Pat Bev show up there. That was a lot of fun. We had some moments with Dame in the first quarter. Dame started out hitting some shots early, and then it was just Giannis. As ridiculous as that sounds, is really what it was. First quarter, Giannis was 2 for 3, 1 of 1 from the 3-point line, 9 points. Second quarter, he goes 3 for 6 from the field, 6 points. He ends the first half 5 for 9, 1 for 1 from 3, 15 points. This is not including free throws, obviously. And in the second quarter from the field, for the second half, my apologies. In the third quarter, 6 for 7. He was getting whatever he wanted. Mid-range, all jumpers. He was getting to the rim. Didn't matter. The one reverse dunk that he had was just nasty, bro. That was disgusting. He had 12 points in the third quarter, just off the field goals. And then he was 1 for 1 and 0 for 1 from the 3-point line in the fourth quarter. Finished 7 of 8, 0 for 1, 14 points. So 29 of his 46 came from the field. Obviously, the rest came from the free throw line because you cannot guard him, clearly. But yeah, this was the Giannis show. And the Bulls proved once again what we've been saying. They are in no man's land. You know, like when you're watching a guy like play defense and you're like, the hell is this guy doing? He's in no man's land. That's the Bulls as a franchise.
Yeah.
They're nowhere. They don't know they don't know what to do. And holding another opponent, back-to-back days holding an opponent under 100. That right there tells me that this team is taking defense very seriously.
Yeah. Giannis had 46, 16, and 6.
Yeah.
So I was like, 666. He was the devil for the Bulls. That makes sense. Damian Lillard started 2 for 2 from the 3-point line. And then Giannis was like, hold my beer. Giannis picked up right after that. The Bulls had no answer for him, whether it was him scoring, passing, driving. The Bucks were up 9 at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the Bucks had a cold start until Giannis got a transition bucket. Then after that, they started 5 for 10 on threes. Then they went 1 for 7 on threes. Giannis did have 23 at the half, but the Bucks started cold, but scored 8 points in the final minute. So a quote-unquote bad offensive quarter. The Bucks still won the quarter 25-20 and had a 14-point lead. Third quarter, the Bulls went on a 7-0 run coming out of half, and then Giannis just started murdering the Bulls at all three levels. Like, get into the basket, like you said, mid-range. He's also making threes pretty consistently. He's not a better three-point shooter than Damian Lillard. That shouldn't have to be said, but apparently it does. And then the Bucks were up 10 after the third quarter. Just needed one more quarter of defense and make some shots to take the W. And fourth quarter, Nikola Vucevic getting tossed was absolutely the right call.
Yeah,
for
dude.
him to
I wasn't even
swipe
talking
down, not really at the ball, and just rake AJ Green across the face. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, he's tossed.
And what did I say to you? Because we were talking during that. It just felt like Vucevic didn't want to be in the game anymore. He was a kid that was getting bullied at school, and he wanted to go home. Sorry, it is what it is.
Bucks got the lead up to 16. Patrick Beverley still working hard on defense. It was feeding his offense. He scored 2 threes and a floater, a little 8-0 run by him that capped off a 17-0 run by the Bucks. Beverley just cooking, and like you said,
talk about the floater, bro. Bring it up. Say what you said. Bro.
He did the too small of the dude afterwards. Yeah, that was awesome. So I want to give credit to Giannis because Giannis became the most ever to do something. Giannis now has the most 40, 10, and 70% field goal shooting games in history. Oh, sorry. He's number 3. He broke the tie for number 3. Number 1 is Wilt. Chamberlain was 16. Shaq had 15. Giannis has 14. So he's gonna
break Wilt's record?
He's close to breaking a Wilt Chamberlain record.
Wow, that's actually crazy because like every record in history, if it's happened, Wilt is up there somewhere, dude.
Right? Yeah. So Giannis has a chance to break an NBA record that Wilt Chamberlain currently holds. And I think he could do it by the end of the year, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
40 points, 10 rebounds, 70% field goals. He needs 2 more to tie, 3 more to pass.
Pretty crazy that he's going to – that's so stupid, bro. That's such a dumb stat. How good are you? Oh, I just own this, like, amazing record. Like, no big deal.
Yeah. Let me finish on this Bulls game, and then I'm going to talk to a couple of Steve's questions. Only 7 turnovers. Hell yeah. Oh, that makes me happy because the Bulls only had 4 points off turnovers. They allowed 14 second chance points, but the Bulls do have some bigs, mainly Vucevic and Drummond. They do have some good rebounders. And 8 missed free throws. Bucks were 24 of 32, 26 fundamental failure points. That's super low. I'm very happy with that. So Brad said, but yet they keep talking LeBron. I'll give LeBron his 40,000 point mark because that's impressive. But the Bucks should be a much bigger national story now than they were a month ago when people were like, oh, the Bucks are this, the Bucks are that, the Bucks are done, the Bucks are washed. And I said, I believed that the Bucks were being used as a media punching bag to distract from the fact that at the time, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Warriors were all play-in teams. And right now, the Warriors and Lakers are still playoff teams, and the Suns are a 6 seed.
They got a big win last night in Denver, though. The Suns are starting to put some shit together. I will say that.
And the West is all pretty close in those top 6.
Yeah. But
the fact is, while all 3 of those teams were play-in teams, the Bucks went from the 2 seed to the 3 seed.
That's so funny, dude. That is so funny. You know what's bullshit? I got to bring something up. So there was, I don't even remember the groups, like some NBA, whatever. I get some news in there, so that's why I stayed. But it's trash most of the time. There was a guy who posted about the Bucks, and he said, after the Clippers game on Monday, he was like, oh, man, the Bucks are going to be scared. They're starting to play defense, and, he was just saying a bunch of stuff. And one guy said, and he posed the question, why is nobody talking about this? One guy commented and said, because it's expected. Fuck that. We're not doing that. How many times, oh my God, and you were the leader of this. How many times have we said the applause should be just as loud as the negativity? If you're going to dog us and you're going to drag us through the mud, when we get it right and we start doing our thing, now you're not going to say anything? Now you don't want to talk about us. You don't want to acknowledge that the Bucks are being the Bucks. How is it expected when we lost in the first round last year and all you did was laugh at us?
Because they got Dame. So that reset the expectation.
Yeah, but the defense was supposed to be bad, and we're playing defense right now, and that's what he was talking about. So how is that expected?
I agree with you.
I'm just saying.
And to the nobody's talking about it, we talked about it. Steve gave us the credit for it. We've been talking about it since the beginning of February.
Yeah, we did.
So as we roll into this Clippers game, I want to answer some of Steve's questions before we start talking about the breakdown of it. Steve, I'm going to get Steve's questions. James said, I've always been a proponent of showing praise as much as you admonish, otherwise you're a hypocrite. Or you're really just trying to push a narrative. And I suppose that is hypocritical very often. James, I would not be surprised at all to see that in Celtics groups. We've seen terrible things from Boston fans. We've seen them say and do terrible things. Like,
James, I gotta
seriously.
be honest. I can't stand the racism in those groups, dude.
And that's what it is.
It is absolutely ungodly. Like, and this is gonna sound so cringy a little bit. I have a black son, and I never had to live with those problems. But my son's gonna have to live in that world. Now, James, as a black man, you've had to live with that, and you've had to deal with that stuff in your daily life. I don't know what to say to my son when he has to deal with that kind of stuff. And he shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to be in that position. But this racism shit, dude, and it's really those big cities that are really, really bad. And it's like, can we just stop? It's 2024, dude. Come on.
Steve is bringing up the exact example that we saw with some of the things that were being said about Drew earlier this season.
Bro, when somebody made a meme of him being hung, I was like, all right, that's fucked.
It's beyond unacceptable, honestly.
Yeah.
And there's you won't have to have this said by us, but there's never going to be any place for racism anywhere near this show.
No, unacceptable. We don't do it. We don't cheer for injuries. We don't do racism. We don't do if you're going to be a shithead, okay?
No.
We love sports, and that's great. If you love sports, welcome. Come talk sports with us. But we also expect you to be a decent human being. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Yeah, that's honestly tier one. Like, and we've gone the positivity route, and athletes are people, all of that. So that's all above sports, honestly. And yeah, just anything racism related, and it's unfortunately it is a big thing with Boston. It's like I said, beyond unacceptable.
Yeah.
So to switch back to the gears of some of Steve's question was, does the Achilles pain scare you guys? He looks to be in some real pain. If it's like an inflammation thing, that just seems to be more of like a hit and miss versus if it was like he has a partial Achilles tear.
Yeah.
Like if it was something like that, it would concern me a little bit more. But if it's just like tendonitis or, inflammation, then that's just going to be kind of more of like a game by game basis. So I'm not super worried about it right now. I don't know if you feel similarly.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't watch this same human a couple of years ago come back from an injury that should have taken him 4 to 6 weeks and then drop 50 in a closeout game in the finals,
that's still fucking wild.
I would be a little worried. But
2 weeks after a hyperextended knee with how gross that looked.
We're talking about Giannis, right? I think he'll be fine. Now, if I take off like my fanboy goggles, I think that there is cause for concern, but he's around world-class doctors. He's a world-class athlete, and he's a Nike athlete. They're going to take care of him. I promise you that.
Yeah. Like I said, as long as it's still just inflammation or tendonitis, I'm not overly concerned long term. Then he asked, is Pat Bev a long-term Milwaukee resident? Let me say this. If they hoist a trophy at the end of the year, whether it be the Eastern Conference, the Larry Bird trophy for winning the Eastern Conference, or the Larry O'Brien trophy, if they're hosting a Larry trophy, yes, he is absolutely a long-term resident.
I think if they get the Larry O'Brien, the big boy one, if they get that one, we have co-mayors in Milwaukee. Bobby and Pat, co-mayors of Milwaukee, boy. Time for new shoes. He just got new shoes. But
he wears new shoes every game. He gives them away all the time.
He's a Nike athlete, like I said. So they could probably just pop out shoes tomorrow if they really wanted to.
James, don't stop calling that out. It needs to be called out.
I agree with
if
that.
people are being racist, obviously, especially you, like Jake said, as a black man, for you to have to deal with that, I feel bad for you. It's nothing that I can do except for be on your side.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in, man. I don't wish that on anybody, and nobody should be in that situation. It's bullshit.
Right. Yeah. All right, Jake. Bucks and Clippers. What stood out to you from Monday night?
Dude, honest to God, if you step back and you think about all the games, this is one of the most fun games to watch.
Dude, people were
Honestly.
like, "Oh, I watched this game," or I had tickets to this game to see Giannis, and then he ended up not playing, and it's like, you imagine being one of those people and then getting to see like an amazing basketball game even without Giannis in it.
This was a good game. I mean, outside of some of the James Harden fouls, which were a little ridiculous when Dame's getting hammered and falling to the ground.
Literally got hit on the head at one point. Didn't get a foul call.
Outside of that, excuse me, I'm getting a cold that Tyler had and my kids had, and
It'd be like that sometimes.
So it is what it is. Damian Lillard started off this game on a heater, boy. He was carrying the offense in the first half. And really, this first half, the Clippers were playing really good offense. They were sharing the ball. A lot of people were touching it. A lot of people were shooting it. Really, Paul George and James Harden really carried the offense for them the entire game, if you really look at the stats. Kawhi Leonard didn't have a good game. He seemed to be struggling. Best NBA game I've seen in a while. Admit I don't watch many, but still, yeah, it was a really good game. The Bucks are a fun watch, man. Obviously with all the superstar power, but Bobby Portis is just must-watch TV from game to game, dude. He's gonna do something hilarious, I promise you. And this is a little off topic, but I always laugh at Pat Bev, dude. That guy is so goddamn funny to me, dude. There was a oh my god, this was so funny. I was geeky. I was laughing so hard in my hands. So there was a travel call on Paul George in this game. And Pat Bev's trying to get the ball, and Paul George holds the ball up like he's teasing a little kid. And Pat Bev just laughs and looks away like, oh, this motherfucker, right? Like he's just and then he just still slaps the ball away. I'm like, bro, you're so funny. You're so out of pocket, dude. It's hilarious. And then I just want to point this out. Credit to Malik Beasley. You were not hitting your shots, but you were still competing your ass off on defense.
Yep.
He was competing hard on defense.
Good
so
call.
Want to give that a shout out. Brook Lopez doing his thing. But to me, this is going to be my final point before I give you the floor here. There was multiple big-time shots. And you could pick whatever one you want to be the biggest of the game. But when the Bucks came out of the timeout and it was 96-90, and Dame comes down the floor and jacks up a monster three-pointer, hits it. Pat Bev gets a three to tie the game. Literally no hesitation, just shoots it.
Yep.
Cashes it. And in my opinion, it's the biggest one of the game. A double team on Damian Lillard because they didn't want him to get the ball or him to take over, right? Because it was Dame time, right? Fourth quarter, Dame time.
Yep.
Also, there's 20 games left in the season, which is Dame time of the season, just so you know.
Fair.
The biggest shot of the game came from AJ Green, who decided to just pull up from 34 feet.
Man.
Off the bench. And before that, played really good defense where we had a challenge, which was fucking ridiculous. We should not have had to challenge that.
Could have got another challenge later in the game on a phantom James Harden foul call.
Right. And Doc even said that to the ref. He said, I shouldn't have to do this.
He said I shouldn't have to challenge this. Yep.
You see
you guys should know. Yep.
And we get the ball back. But the biggest shot of the game was AJ Green. When he hit that shot after Damian Lillard, this shot came after Dame got a really tough layup to go in. When he hit that, I was like, oh, yeah, we're winning. This is ours now. It's over now. And then Bobby Portis hit a couple shots, and he was talking. And it should be illegal for Pat Bev and Bobby Portis to be on the same team because they are going to piss everybody off.
I got you. Because I put this out there already. I put this into the world.
Come on, man. Bro, they're getting the whole stadium riled up, bro. You go on this side. I'll go on this side.
Beverly actually talked about this. Beverly actually talked about it. That people talking about Bobby and Beverly. And he said He's like, we know that we're both like hype guys up. We go to different quarters. They're literally planning this shit. They're literally planning it. They're like, they go to different corners to hype up different sections of the stadium. They literally planned that. They see that the other one is going the other direction, and they go to the other direction to go hype up a different group of fans, and they both just divide and conquer the stadium.
Bro, I just
just
realized
make it
something.
so loud the Clippers can't hear their own thoughts.
I literally just noticed the most random thing of all time. First of all, they are like literally yin yang. Okay, one's tall, one's short. One's name is BP, and the other one's is PB. They're literally yin yang, bro. They're yin yang, bro.
Yes, that's why I put their initials on here, my guy.
I know, but that's fucking crazy, bro. This should be illegal. This should be illegal. Squad 6 everywhere.
Welcome.
Oh my God, Squad 6, Steve. Way to age me.
Yeah. All right. So, getting into things here. First quarter, and let me say this. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. If you did not get to watch this game because it was only on local TV and like League Pass, I went and broke down a bunch of the plays from the game that I rewatched the game and I broke down a bunch of the plays. That is on the Wisco Fanatics Facebook and YouTube pages. So you can watch that to get a bunch of these plays that we're talking about and a bunch of the plays that Jake talked about and some of the really important runs in the fourth quarter from where it was like 96, 93, like Jake talked about, all the way to the AJ Green 3. Like that whole sequence, I broke that all down.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off the first quarter, Damian Lillard's gravity. I also put out a video on this, on Damian Lillard's gravity, because people still only look at points and be like, oh, Damian Lillard only had 22 points this game. He averaged 30 last year. Oh, Dame didn't shoot that efficiently. The gravity still matters because it opens things up for everybody else. So I broke down 2 plays, one of them being the first play of the game, or the first 3 of the game that the Bucks made, and then a later one where Bobby Portis was able to get a super easy layup because everybody is staring at Damian Lillard. And I was able to use it to poke fun at James Harden for being bad on defense a little bit. So I had 2 reasons for that one. But the Clippers made a lot of threes in the first quarter. They were 6 for 8 on threes in the first quarter. They finished the first quarter on a 14-4 run. And the Bucks had an uphill climb from that point on. That said, Damian Lillard was cooking. He had 13 of the Bucks' first 19 points and a couple of assists. So Damian Lillard, like I said when I brought up the power pair, carried the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Steve said gravity is huge. Christian Watson does that too. That is absolutely factual, and we've talked about that too, especially in the Cowboys game.
Man, I love Steve so much, dude. Steve, I literally appreciate your sports knowledge, dude. It's oh my God, I love it. That's so great. I love this. Like people will just complain about Watson having 1 catch and not realize that he was triple teamed.
That's why we do what we do, my guy.
God.
That's why we put those videos out.
We need more Steves. Put that on a shirt, bro.
We need more Steves.
We need more Steves.
All right. Second quarter, Patrick Beverley, like you said, just pestering Paul George.
Yeah.
You want to know what's wild? Is that the most time spent guarding Paul George was Patrick Beverley. There's like a 4-inch size difference there. And Patrick Beverley spent 5 minutes and 15 seconds guarding Paul George. 24 possessions. Paul George only took 3 shots. He made 2 of them, but they were both inside the 3-point line. So in 5 minutes and 15 seconds of game time, Paul George scored 4 points.
I'm with that. He's a monster, so I'll gladly take that.
Especially from a dude undersized. James said the need for Steve. That's funny.
That's a W.
Bobby Portis playing in rhythm, got himself an and one. Patrick Beverley hit a couple threes when the Clippers were leaving him open. So taking advantage of that is good. 7-0 run by the Bucks cut the Clippers lead to 2 at 50-48. Patrick Beverley was everywhere in the second quarter. The Bucks down 7 at halftime. They did win the second quarter by 3 points. Now, the Clippers got up by 15 points twice in the third quarter. They went on a run and got it up to 15 early, and then again, around the 4.5-5 minute mark, they had a 15-point lead. The Bucks went into zone defense for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then Damian Lillard got to the free throw line, And the Bucks were able to, again, win that challenge you brought up with Doc. Doc actually won 2 challenges. Could have won 3. Malik Beasley hit a 3, and the Bucks were able to get the lead down to 8 at the end of the third quarter, essentially cutting the 15-point lead in half. So that was big. The way that the third quarter went, it was all Clippers. Kind of felt like they were going to pull away.
Yeah.
And the Bucks were able to, like I said, essentially cut their lead in half before the end of the third quarter into the fourth. Then I think what really started this for me was Danilo Gallinari getting a tip slam on a missed Bobby Portis 3-pointer.
Dude, seriously. Out of nowhere.
That's not anything that was ever going to be in remote consideration for the bingo card. A Danilo Gallinari tip slam was never going to be on the bingo card.
That was a legit dunk, too. It wasn't like...
Yeah.
That was a legit dunk. He got up a little bit for that.
And he two-handed it.
Yeah, he did.
Very next possession, Gallinari feeds Bobby Portis in the corner, and Bobby hits the 3. We've talked about this a lot, where if a guy gets 2 threes in the same possession, he's usually able to correct what he missed on the previous one, and the percentage goes way up for guys shooting their second shot off of offensive rebounds. There was a defensive possession in between, but Bobby Portis shot from the exact same spot and hit it.
Yep.
And then comes the sequence that you brought up. Damian Lillard hitting a 3, Bucks getting a stop, being down 96-93 with 5 minutes left to go. So we're in clutch time. And the Bucks go zone again and force a shot clock violation. And this was hilarious to me, and it's one of the plays that I broke down as the Bucks forcing the shot clock violation by kind of looking like they were going to come out in man defense and then being in zone. And James Harden took 9 of the 14 seconds on the shot clock to like point everybody where to go because the Bucks were in zone instead of man. And by the time that he like initiated their offense, there was 5 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah, I remember that very vividly.
After that, Patrick Beverley, that's what they hit the 3 to tie the game at 96. And then the Bucks still in zone, got a double team, and the pass went over to James Harden. Beverley got a hand on it to slap it in the air. Damian Lillard tipped it. Bobby Portis grabbed it, passed it up to Damian Lillard, and Damian Lillard got a layup that made the game 98-96, gave their Bucks their first lead since the first quarter.
Yeah, the place was loud too.
It was, and it got louder because the next possession, still in zone, Brook Lopez blocked Kawhi Leonard at the rim. Bucks came down, and they get that double team on Dame, and then AJ Green hits like the deepest 3 that I've ever seen him shoot. And I'm like, that had to be like 33 feet. And then Steve Novak's talking to Lisa Byington, and she's like, the official measurement on that one is 33 feet. I'm like, nailed it. Nailed it. Got that. The Bucks went on a 15-0 run from 96-90 to 105-96 against the team that's top 5 in the West.
Yeah.
And a team that's like, oh, the Clippers are doing this after they went, no, they started this, and then oh, now the Clippers look really good. And the Bucks did it without Giannis and Khris.
That's the biggest thing for me.
The Bucks did end up building a lead as big as 112-100 with 33 seconds left, and I think the end of the game score doesn't quite reflect how much the Bucks dominated this game over the last 5 minutes.
They literally smacked the shit out of the Clippers for the last 5 minutes. Did whatever they wanted.
Steve, if you're mad about James Harden, this will make you feel better. He made a free throw at 6 minutes and 58 seconds in the fourth quarter. Did not score again for the rest of the game.
They tried to go through Kawhi and Paul George at the end.
Yeah.
And it did not work.
So Patrick Beverley did start this game for Giannis. The Bucks started a little slow on offense, but the defense was still a problem for the Clippers, not for the Bucks. No Giannis, no Khris, a quiet night by Malik Beasley and Brook Lopez, and the Bucks still found a way to win. Steve said he's on my fantasy team. Well, good. I hope your fantasy team sucks because it has James Harden on it. Sorry, not sorry. He's probably one of my least favorite players to ever have played in the NBA.
Dude, when I watch him and like I'm watching a game and James Harden's playing, like I purposely try not to watch him, but he's on the Clippers and they're kind of good. But when I watch him, I think to myself, I'll be very happy when he retires. I do not have to watch this flopping loser anymore.
And I just hope that like people coming up in the NBA aren't trying to be like, oh, I modeled my game after James Harden. Like, I really hope you don't. There are so many more deserving, better player role models than James Harden.
Yeah, I give my son like actual NBA players to model their game after.
Yeah, and I think Trae Young is one of those guys who is in the mold of James Harden.
I will say that his basketball IQ with passing the ball is very good.
Great.
But his flopping stuff is a little.
And I think that's what bothers me the most. Like, I know we've talked about this with James Harden defensively. He's strong and he's athletic. Like, he's got the ability. But he tries to just manipulate the game so that he doesn't have to do things he doesn't want to do.
Well, I'll tell you this. The basketball gods are always watching, and there's a reason that he has 0 rings. For as talented as a guy as he is, because Harden has talent.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good shooter. He's a good passer.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was a willing defender, easily in his prime, easily a top 3 player in the league with how good he is on offense, if he plays defense.
If he were to play defense, I'd be willing to say that he could be above Dwayne Wade in all-time shooting guards. But because he doesn't, he's not. And he won't win a championship because he doesn't.
Wade's ability to sacrifice when he was still a top dog will always earn my respect for why he's above James Harden, because Harden does not have the heart to do that.
Yeah, and we've seen it 3 times in the last 4 years that he's forced his way out of situations in a really cancerous way.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, he was wearing the fat suit, bro. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
So the Bucks are now 14-1 when Damian Lillard scores 30 or more points. So let Dame be Dame. That's why Giannis keeps saying that. Let Dame be Dame.
Yeah.
Now the rest of this, I want to just talk about Bobby Portis a lot for a little bit. Bobby Portis now has 11 straight games in double figures. And then 2 quotes that I want to give to Bobby Portis. First one, and I mentioned this before when, I don't remember if it was Brad or Steve that brought up Doc Rivers' coaching habits. Bobby Portis said, "This year I've watched more film than any other time in my career on defense."
Oh, wow.
So it's not a secret why the Bucks are better defensively. It's a major, major emphasis since Doc Rivers has taken over. And that is why the Bucks decided to let Adrian Griffin go and bring in Doc Rivers. Because we've seen the offense take care of itself. But now we're getting into a situation where over the last month, the Bucks have held like 7 teams under 100 points. They're not trying to beat teams 140 to 130 anymore. They're trying to beat teams 120 to 95. That gives you a much bigger margin for error when you're talking about how the Bucks can win games. Which I think when you get into that area in the playoffs, that's only going to help you is by having that larger margin of error and that larger cushion of ways you can win. Next, this is hilarious. This is Bobby Portis' response when asked about AJ Green's super deep 3. And it's hilarious. You can watch on the film of this play. Is that Bobby Portis said, "I know it's going in. If there's one person, when he cocks the ball back in the shooting pocket, I'm not even crashing the glass on his. I just walk back on defense because I think it's going in every time." So I'm going to pull it up because it's hilarious. And it's absolutely true that he does it. So I got to go. Oh, that was right before it. So there's Dame.
Look at this
again. If you want to watch these plays, I broke all of these plays down. And
Get on my
all of them. Oh, this is awesome.
Watch AJ right here.
Okay.
That's like you 1,000.
Watch Bobby Portis in the bottom right-hand corner over here. Bobby Portis says, "I don't even crash the boards when he shoots." He does it. He starts walking back.
What, dude? I love watching the crowd on those big shots, dude. That just, it's amazing.
It's so funny. And again, this is just another one of those situations where, like, everybody's paying attention to where Damian Lillard is. All 5 of their players are staring at Damian Lillard right now.
Yeah. But AJ to relocate and get to an open spot, that's beautiful stuff. Watch the crowd. This is my favorite part. Oh, man. Let's go.
Steve said holding a 2024 NBA team to under 100 is like holding a 2004 team under 80. Jake's talked about this at the lowest scoring team, like just 4 or 5 years ago was like 96, and now it's like 106.
10 years ago in 2014, the highest scoring team was the Warriors. They would not have more points per game than the lowest scoring team in the league right now.
Yeah.
Think how good that Warriors team was. Now, I understand that was like kind of the start of the three-point barrage.
Right.
That was right before the Steph Curry kind of league takeover. But still, that was just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not that long.
That's why I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's just the Hornets or it's just the Bulls. Ugh. I don't care. The Bucks held a Clippers team that has Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden to 106. I don't care who they're playing. If they're holding teams under 100, that's impressive.
Right.
Especially when they're pulling starters in the fourth quarter, like most of those games, because they're beating them so badly.
Yeah.
So last thing, just to throw this out there again, the fundamental failures: 4 missed free throws, 15 points off turnovers is a little high, but the Clippers have guys that can push the pace, and only 8 second chance points, which going against a guy like Zubats who can control the paint, Brook Lopez did a better job of it. And only allowed 8 second chance points. So 27 fundamental failure points again. So 27, 26, 27 in the 3 games this week. The Bucks fundamentals are just better in the last 6 games, obviously, but honestly, since Doc Rivers took over, the defense and the fundamentals are better. It's the numbers are there. It's all factual.
And this is why they made the decision. And this is exactly what we said. Griffin in a different situation would be a tremendous coach for an upstart team or, a young team with talent that, is trying to take the next step maybe. He'd be a good guy for that.
Steve Clifford got fired in Charlotte at the end of the year. Like, I would love to see Adrian Griffin get that job.
Yeah, that would be a really good spot for him. And they got a little bit of talent over there now. Charlotte's actually building a little bit. Yeah, they're not as desert as I thought they were a couple years ago. They actually have a couple pieces over there now. But that would be a great spot for him. But a team that has Damian Lillard and Giannis and it's championship or bust, people can make fun of Doc Rivers all they want, but the guy has obviously been in a lot of big situations and he knows how to control NBA superstars. So he was a good option.
And his acumen, like what he's good at, is what the Bucks needed the most. So to be able to find that from available coaches in the middle of a season, I think really respect needs to be put on John Horst as well.
Agreed.
All right. So the Bucks have 4 games between now and next Wednesday when we have our next show to talk about the Bucks at least. They play tonight at Golden State, Friday at the Lakers, Sunday at the Clippers, and Tuesday at the Kings. So I will say the Bucks being on a West Coast road trip, it is only 4 games instead of 5, and they're actually playing every other day instead of playing back-to-backs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 3-1 for the next week. I'm going to say the Clippers. Get up a little extra for Sunday's game, and try to get some revenge on the Bucks. So I'm going to say 3-1.
Well, we're winning tonight, although this is the Warriors' first game since getting absolutely pounded in Boston. Giannis could be back. Don't have any word on that yet. Still says questionable when I look. Lakers are just shit. So I don't expect to lose to the Lakers. The Clippers will get up for that one, but I think the Bucks will as well. If they're going to lose a game, it's going to be to the Kings because the Kings like to run a lot of fast break. That'll be a tough game. Kings are kind of tough to play in their building. I'm going to go with a 4-0. I think they run this thing to 10 straight. I think they run it to 10 straight going into that. What is that next game? Is that the Suns?
Oh, after that, they play 1 game before Phoenix. I think it's Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's Philly. So I think they'll get it up. I honestly think that the next game that they lose will probably be the Phoenix game, which is why I'm saying that. But I think that either that or the Kings. The Kings is questionable for me. I don't think that the Clippers are.
The Kings will be a good test to see how the Bucks are doing transition defensively.
Yeah, that's why they've always been a tough matchup for us. They're like the West Coast Pacers.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I'm with that. All righty. Well, as Jake said at the top of the show, Friday night we're going to be doing our Green Bay Packers free agency episode, and like Jake said, we also have to kind of put a lid on Bryant if we don't allow a cap on how many trade ideas we let him come up with. So we're going to have a couple trade discussions in the beginning just to kind of see if there's some stuff that we're interested in the Packers maybe taking a look at. Other than that, we're doing free agency discussions. So we're going to talk about who the Packers have that are free agents, if we think the Packers should keep them or let them go. And then top fives on offense and defense, each side of the ball, on who we would like to see the Packers take a look at when the new league year starts on Monday or Tuesday. So
new league year's on the
doing
13th.
that ahead of the new league year starting.
It's on the 13th. It's next Wednesday.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
Yep. It's literally a week from today.
Okay. So yeah, literally next Wednesday then. But it's going to be our last Friday show before that. So yeah, Friday night's going to be our free agency episode. And then other than that, we really got to get the hype going for our Brewers Primer because it's going to be a big deal. We got a lot of guests coming for that. It's really turning into an extravaganza of sorts with the amount of Brewers guests that we have coming on for that that show. So we're working on getting everybody recorded that we can get recorded beforehand, and maybe having a couple of them on live. So it's going to be a big deal for our Brewers Primer. It's going to be a lot of fun. And other than that, I will see you Friday night. Go Bucks and go Raiders. We'll throw that out there.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you Friday.